Should African Americans reclaiming the Jewish identity form their unhalakhic-based communities?
By region, I believe by region in the USA on the East Coast, and then from there in each region, then start to apply the halakha. What you said about the duress, that could be a very good indicator or a principle in order to establish Jewishness of someone who descends from slavery and slave trade, because they're considered to be tinok shenishba, a child who's been sequestered by the goyim, raised in their traditions, and according to halakha, that person is still an Israelite. The question is, after so many generations and mixing with non-Israelite people, then how do we determine? Can we establish a majority, a hazakah based on the majority? Possibly, but in order to do that, we need to do the anthropology first. I haven't done that.
So that definitely needs to be something should be funding to research that. Now, when we talk about the dynamic of, say, African Americans, say, going to Igbo land.
Yes.
In saying, proclaiming and saying, hey, you know what? I can't prove it on paper because we were, under stress and our history was removed and systematically removed. And it makes you wonder, like, why did they care so much to remove the history of these people, right? So the history was systematically removed from these people. So, but we've had traditions of Judaism, and the only thing we could attach ourselves to was what we had around us, which was mainstream Judaism. Do the people in Nigeria, the Igbos, do they have a reacclimation process? Have they got to that stage, or they just mostly been so enclosed into?
They are at the stage. They are at the stage. And that's why I'm reporting, and I'm telling you, welcome. Those that want to connect in such a way will be welcomed by brothers in Igbo land.
Now, would it be like a Ger Sahumra type of a thing, or would it just be like learning the Amunana and, you know what I mean? Like, how did they?
Yes, and partaking of the Kolana ceremony. First thing I would say, if that man is not circumcised, he needs to do that first, because it is considered aru. It is an abomination for Igbo not to be circumcised. So that's the first thing they will have to do. So it follows the same structure of the Torah. That's the first thing you have to do, even before you can even sit down at the table to talk about this.
There's a rabbi who I've spoken to a few times in this chat, and he put a couple of questions. I wanted to see if he wanted to. Rabbi, do you want to come up? I can see you. You want to ask your questions, or you're okay with that? Hold on. Okay. Trying to unmute you. Okay. Rabbi, you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Okay, so first I want to say, Koha Kavod, both of you, and thank you for this opportunity to express and explain not only your experiences, but your knowledge, information about this great, I call this one of the last and greatest chapters in the diaspora. So Baruch Hashem for what you're doing. And you too, Rob Mordecai, much kavod to you. For both of you, I have nothing but I feel starstruck right here. Okay, you two guys like my celebrity rabbis. I do have a question, because the phenomenon here in the U.S. with African Americans being forced to breed and forced to, and you already addressed that. I think you said that they're waiting with open arms. And me personally, coming through the traditions and Masora from Rabbi Matthew, but more from the halakhic aspect of it, and knowing what he envisioned. So, with that being said, a lot of people who are here in America, who have their own oral traditions, identify as Jews, may not want to join the old way with the Nigerians, although they consider them their brothers. What do you see in the future with that group of African Americans And I really started an organization called West African Jews of the Diaspora, because we all been scattered throughout the world, and not just here in the US today, also in Brazil and other parts of South America. So what do you foresee based on your experiences, based on what you're working with? I'm right now personally working with teaching and hoping to cultivate future leaders under the situation that we are in. I am looking forward to the future. Based on what you're telling me, it looks like a beautiful thing that's happening, Be'ezra Hashem. But what do you see? And I'm looking forward to hear your thoughts, both of you, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Rabbi, for your question and bringing this issue. I have had this conversation before, I think sometime last year, with some people who are part of some type of Hebraic movement among African Americans in the United States. And I will repeat what I told them. Form your own communities. Form your own communities. Create your own indigenous tradition, which brings Africa and also United States and maybe the Caribbean, and create your own tradition in a halachic way and express it in that way, make it your own. Because I believe you are correct. Not everyone wants to go back to the old way and connect with the Igbos. And every community, every Jewish community that we mentioned today has its own identity based on geography and experience. And even some communities like the Sephardic community that was expelled from Spain and Portugal and went to the Ottoman Empire and to other places in the New World are always remembering Sepharad, Spain, Portugal, always through the language, the food, the music, the way we study the law. And I believe that African American Jews can do the same exact thing in the USA. Same exact thing. Connect to the old land, express it in the language of the new lands, and stay with halakha. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and we could, and I think it's about building off of Nigeria, building off of things like Amunana, building off of these mechanisms, and clarifying that Rabbi Yehuda, he actually has a Siddur. I haven't saw it yet, but it's the West African Siddur.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So these types of tools, I think it's pertinent, because I mean the issues like this, there's millions of dollars that have been put into people going to India to research B'nai Menashe and other, tribes. And they have some chazaka and something, it's open, but it's there. And they love the Torah and they're good people. And I met many here in Israel, right? You see a lot of, B'nai Menashe all over the place. And the same thing with, other communities, with Spanish communities, these types of things, in terms of, so it seems like, that there should be a safe space of development for African Americans who connect to the Nigerian outlook, the West African outlook, and there should be a segue system into them to, be able to keep halakhic Judaism, and
I want to add something.
Go ahead, Rabbi, please.
I want to add something very important to what you're saying. What we cannot have is people coming to Torah and being disenfranchised by another group of Jews. We cannot have that. And that's why I started explaining about Hazakah, and all Jews are Jews today because of Hazakah. If one Jew starts saying to another Jew, you're not Jewish or you're doubtful, that person is bringing doubt on himself and his whole lineage, because we are all Jews based on the same exact legal principles. So what you're saying about creating a safe space is so important. You know how many people are alienated from the Torah because they approach a local synagogue and the rabbis look at them and say, who are you? No, we don't want you. They won't tell them in that way, but they will make them feel unwanted. And so that person ends up going to Islam. Ends up going to Islam